Hello and welcome. This is your crypto day morning. Today's date, 7th of February 2019. All bets, trades of the like within each his own risk and their own reward. Alrighty. From this decline, and the pattern was obviously matching lows, which is a bit lower than that, but you get the idea. And that of lower highs. Descending triangle was most certainly another name you could have used for it. It ended up breaking it to the downside with this move, and ever since now, since this level of resistance, it has been in a downtrend within that point. Let's take a look at this within less candles. And multiple level of resistance hit from this low. It's been almost 2 months since this mid-December low. And we've had this little short-term level of support. This one has worked out to be much larger in this area in here, as this was support here. It was support and resistance and major congestion from January 10th till the breakdown on January the 27th, thus establishing this lower level of support. And I'd have to think that if there's going to be another one, it's going to come down to here. Now, I do think more times than not, whenever you have a situation of the decline, and of course polar opposite's true for this on rallies, but you have a decline and you have your rally, so a decent enough gain, so well above the 18 would justify for that. Decent amount of time, and in the 2 months, that's about 60 periods on the daily. Then that's got the characteristics to tell me we should at least have a good probability for support. I like to use the word of support as in a market going down where it should stop going down. That's it, stop going down. Not necessarily have a big gain. Therefore, if you're to ask me, okay, if this is going to have support, what are we going to have between the two possible situations? Either just going sideways, correcting, maybe even resisting this level, or having a lame ass rally, which is probably unable to really do much with the 18 highs, thus not get above it or barely much at all. So that would be a lame ass rally. Those would be more probable on support than it would be having a very good rally, breaking it much higher. At least at this point. I think if it's going to do that, meaning we're going to bottom at this area and then take off to big gains later on, I think later on is going to be much later on, meaning maybe we'll just chop around for a decent amount of time or something amongst that nature. But I'm just a little pessimistic that any support level here would be the area where a big rally is going to generate itself from. Breaking down below this level of support, there's really two areas I'll be focusing on. One will be that of a good leg lower on this time frame, which to me, breaking down below 3100 after the major break of 6000, I'd be thinking noticeably over 2000, 23, 24, maybe even 26, 2650 as an okay one as far as the price differential on move. And then after that, the most largest one, which is the 1000, which represents this level of major previous resistance. And to say it's important to have a higher low from here would be an understatement. And I would have to think that the must hold area for this, when I see point A, B lows and all that kind of stuff within the $2 lows, the 1000 highs, the 150 lows, and these 20K highs, that a retracement here to this level is very much a noticeable higher low to this point in here. So those would be the two areas of support. Currently the 18 average of highs is in about 7,700, so it's got a long ways to go to regain any type of amazing bullish trend on the long-term time frame. Moving on to NLC2 and some altcoins. This one's just amazing and interesting how it's working. And I really do like the movements when you go down like this, up like this, down like this, up like this. But I like this volume in here, and what I find interesting is whenever I sell in here, I'm always thinking, man, I'm selling in here, and I own so much less here than I did back in here. Oh man, I'm when it was like say 400 Satoshi. I remember selling this at 290, thinking it was a good time to get rid of a bunch, and I could have held and sold it now. So be it. And then I always wonder during these days in here, as all I'm doing pretty much is buying, and I'm seeing how the the sellers just keep going in, decent amount of chunks go down here and there. The sell orders keep on having getting larger and larger. So you see where before when it was 280, say on one of these days where I last bought at 220, it was say 250 maybe 10 minutes before, and then I see sell orders for like 230 for like a Bitcoin. Then it goes back down to 188, and a big sell order for 200 comes in, and you think, man, is this really a good idea? And I realize long term it is, because now I've been able to sell again, and I'm thinking the same thing. Well, you know what? Maybe the smart play here is actually just to buy, because well, you know this thing is probably going to just go way higher. After all, I remember when I first got into this, I thought it was really cheap buying it at like 2,000, 1,800, and it was. So I realize there's big moves. But yes, I'm doing this obviously the right way. And what I like about this, as far as when I'm buying, and this is different than normal because I decided as this was going higher to do a more aggressive play on it. So therefore, I was buying a lot more than I was selling. Let's put it that way. And now, because of everything that I've sold, they are all placed in buy orders. So therefore, I don't have to come up with any new Bitcoin, basically, until the price goes to like 100. That's what I like about that, because my last sale, say 300 high, which it was, and then I can look to buy that back in here. And then the sale I had in here, I can try to buy back here. And then the first one rather, that I had somewhere here, and even one of these in here, down here. So this one here, I'm trying to buy here. Then there's one random one up here I'm trying to buy at like 80 or 100 or something. So I got the liquidity I need for a very good pullback along the way. And what I want to see is for this thing to just keep on doing these V-shaped formations as much as possible, because then I'll just keep on, as we flip higher, just aggressively selling over and over and over again, realizing that it has to go down again at some point, because that's how these markets work. Looking at some other coins I've been showing recently, Theta's holding in there, looking really, really sweet. After this big rally that came into place, we established this level of resistance, which supported it at the end of January, and has had this nice little leg higher, which started leaving the 18 average February 3rd, February 4th, making this high yesterday, pulling back within the day, and now very close to where it came from. So therefore, if we put a horizontal ray where we ended up finding support, it appears below this high, it was matching this high, and it was pretty much within this high as well. So therefore, coming back to where it came from, close to the 18 average of highs, but not quite. And within this, on a shorter term time frame, the single hour, these were successful retracement. At least it's very much looking so far such. As we have this high, we have this low. Now Fibonacci retracement, I'm not going to calculate the number. I use the formula of high, which in this case is 2170, divided by low. So I look at this, I see a low of 1835. Not much of a move, just like 1.3 or 1.1 something, but whatever. And I put that to the root of 0.618, multiply this low again, and it's going to be somewhere right around where we are now. And as this is playing through, after the 3-candle big move up, starting below the 18 average of lows, first one completing its course or completing its stage at the lows, second one at the highs, third one at a pierce above. Correctionary move, there's 3 periods where it's supported the 18 highs, then it lifted off on the next one, barely making a higher high, but that's important because it's making a barely higher low. To me, it looks like it's got a really, really good setup moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if it breaks this resistance and start to test some of this previous levels up in here. AID coin, AID, not much for volume, and NLC too. I'm going to bring that up in a second because I didn't totally forgot about talking about its volume, but I just like how its setup continues. It's like screaming, we're going to be going up. I'm not going to say soon because it's been taking a freakishly long time and we're not going down. That's for certain right now. The 18 average of highs has been tremendous support for this entire week and an extra day or so. And then back to the NLC2 again, like I was stating within this volume. This big volume came on this down move, and I did kind of think, wow, this is some freakishly big volume. And it has been continuing ever since, and oftentimes big volumes can come at different key top and bottom reversal points, and it looks like this one might not be, or may not be, or might not be that of an exception, especially if this thing goes higher, because to say this is going to be a big reflection turning point would state that this thing is probably going to go at least you'd have to think to back to 4 digits, I would think. But that's NLC2. Let's take a look at Vertcoin next. And it's having an interesting day right now at 41% on the session. I last sold at 99.90 something. And when you look at this market, I've been taking a lot of my funds thinking, what do I really don't need to trade? Trade at least I could say I could throw it in Litecoin, stick it in my wallet, and just sell it when Litecoin goes, well, much higher. Long-term trade, that would be. And this is one coin I just can't stop trading. Like AID, again, one more as well. And within this, here you have the nice up and down choppy movements during the decline, really to a degree compared to a lot of the other markets. But overall, as much as these markets have been bleeding red, both in dollars and against Bitcoin, a lot of them like this can still be above some of these key long-term levels. So long-term, that's obviously not a surprise if you have volatility from before, and volatility of big measures doesn't stop, which is what the case is. Thus, you could continue to go forward. But higher low here, priced against Bitcoin. The US dollar, as we mentioned, well, Bitcoin's 3,000 and change. And I remember it was just about under 2 years ago, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's gotten to 3,000. This is just incredible because 3,000 was interesting resistance back in 2017 in the spring, so less than 2 years ago for that. But a lot of these big moves. And as I look at this, as a trader, as far as buying low, selling high, what it means was in here, which is the latter part of the year up until November. So therefore August, mid-August to November. You had these days where you had some spots where you could have sold at the 11.4 number and bought back at 10. Not much, and there's a situation where you could have easily missed these, or you're playing higher volatility and your sell orders here were not hitting. So be it. And then in here, this meant buying. And then you had a sell situation in here. You had a buy situation in here, possible sell in here, but probably not. But after buying here, you have a sell situation here, a buy spots in here, sell spots in here, maybe a buy back here, but if you don't, definitely sell situations. So I've had a sell order at, well, I sold at 99. Before that, I sold at 8,000. So I sold at 8,000. So previous high, I sold in here. And the sell order was 79. This happened like last night. And then I'm thinking, well, where do I want my next sell order? And I say to myself, normally I'm okay with like moves of like just 15, 16%. But in this spot here, where are we going to if it breaks higher? And I looked at the chart and I'm like, well, duh. Previous resistance, key psychological 10 number. How do I not put a sell order at 99 as my next order? Which is what I did. And it hit. So now, where am I looking to buy? Well, I've already drawn the line in where it is. It's 8,000. Previous level for where it came from. That's just where to buy. Where do I need to sell next? Well, as we can see in here, I can start to scale sell, which means if it keeps going up, just every so often, just if it's up enough, just sell some more and just cost average the way higher, which is probably what I'm going to do. I got my sell order right now in at about this level of previous resistance, so even higher than that, 125 or so. Nothing too fantastic. As far as the short term on how this is manifesting its move, this is Just thinking if it's. Trying to think if there's any situation here for day trading, any type of wild spikes that may continue. I like this volume still magnificently high, but a lot of up and down moves that have been going on. This is just some wild volatility short term. And I'm looking at this actually for the first time today. Just wild choppiness up and down action because you see it breaking down in here at 810. And then in here we have how it didn't resist the 18. No, it got above it, matching this high in here, looking as if it may want to break down, or break out rather. That's exactly it. It's tough to determine because you're decently well from this high, decently from this low. That to me, I would just be confident having a buy order here, sell order up here, all that stuff. But again, I'm looking for larger size moves. Vericoin for me really wasn't doing much for quite some time in here, as I probably would have sold last on January 23rd and then bought back. I'm thinking maybe I don't. Let me quickly check. And I sold January 24th, bought 25th. So I did sell this high and I did buy the very next day. So those were my last two trades. So since that point, that was 6 plus, so close to 2 weeks without a trade, which is pretty much a decent amount of time given that I'm usually playing for like 15% moves. I sold near the 8 number and I bought pretty much at the 7 number. That was like a 12-13% move. And then I sold again at the 8 number, and here's how it stands now at 97.33. Quickly, as far as sports wagers are concerned, I'm taking some time off of hockey, but there's just one game that I really, really think is a nice play. And Covers has changed their matchup sites. I'm tempted on Detroit, but it's plus 135. I really would like a higher price. What I really am thinking is the under on 6 total goals. As we see in this game in here, Detroit comes into the game with a record of 21 wins and 32 losses. I add all losses together because a loss is a loss. All shootout and overtime wins are counted in here, so why don't the losses in there? Other than the stupid 1 point rule. And Vegas 30-25. And when I say stupid rule, that's my opinion. It's obviously up for suggestion. Everyone likes it or loves it or finds it neutral. Vegas, they finished that losing streak because they come out of the All-Star break, they lose 2 more games, and then they beat Tampa, a very tough opponent. Will there be a letdown spot? Question mark. I think it's a bonus if it is because I don't know. But if we look at the scores, 5 goals, 4 goals, 7, 3, 6. And they're playing against Detroit, who are getting their act together. I was going to say that S word, but it seems that I just avoid those 4-letter words on here because I'm so used to not using them. Where in my everyday life, in most right atmospheres, I would just, yeah, anyway. 2-0 win against Ottawa. They're a crappy team again. Toronto 3-2 win. They're not. Edmonton 3-2 win. And all these games have lower scoring. Vancouver 3-2 loss. And then Edmonton before. They've only had 2 games since the All-Star break. And even lower scoring game against Vancouver. Calgary, a high scoring team, was 10 though. Anaheim 4. Minnesota 7. And I've always considered Vegas this year to be a lower scoring team as it is. So I do like the under 6 goals in this game. I think even 5.5 should be favored to go under. So if I'm going to get somewhere around an even price to go under 6, I think it's a decent wager and I'm probably going to take it as long as the price doesn't go down. Maybe I'll wait and see. Now where do I find consensus on here? Because I want to see if there's consensus to the under. But either way, take care. I thought I seen consensus. If I can find it here, that doesn't tell me much. Thank you for tuning in.